This happened just a few weeks ago. I was working the night shift as a delivery driver. After losing my office job due to budget cuts, I thought this would be an easy way to get by. I drove through my small town. The streets were quiet. It felt like I knew this place well enough. On my second night, I parked in front of a house with a flickering porch light. I remember the cold air hitting me as I stepped out. As I walked to the door, I heard soft tapping from inside. It could have been music, or maybe someone working on something. I knocked, but no one answered. I felt a little silly standing there, so I turned around and left. As the days passed, things started to feel off. Each night I drove by that house, I saw shadows moving past the windows. At first, I thought it was my mind playing tricks on me, but each glimpse made my heart race, like something was watching. I tried to ignore it. Then I heard laughter. It rang out late at night, high-pitched and creepy, even when the streets were empty. I couldn't pinpoint where it came from. Each laugh sent shivers down my spine. What was going on? One night after my shift, I found an old crumpled newspaper in my car. It was from 10 years ago and covered missing children cases from the area. A wave of dread washed over me as I realized the children vanished near that house. I felt sick. Could it be connected? That evening, I had to drop off another package at the same house. I approached, and the porch light was completely out. There was an eerie silence surrounding me. I stood frozen, unsure if I should knock. I thought I heard a whisper. My hands trembled as I raised them to knock. Just then, the door slowly creaked open. I didn't see anyone. But then I noticed something. A shadow at the back of the dark living room. I squinted, my heart racing. Was there someone there? It felt like it turned its head toward me. I took a step back, feeling exposed. It was too dark to see clearly. Just then, I heard that laughter again, softer this time. It felt so close, like it was right behind me. I whipped around, but there was nothing there. I could feel my heart pounding. I didn't know what to do. Everything felt wrong. I wanted to run, but I was stuck. The shadow in the house seemed to grow darker, and the laughter echoed in my mind. I took a deep breath and looked back at the house. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was inside was waiting for me. I stepped back, my instincts screaming to get away. I couldn't shake off the weight of that moment. What was happening inside? I still can't answer that question. All I know is that something followed me home that night. And every time I close my eyes, I hear that laughter. The next night felt heavier, like a storm was brewing. I still couldn't shake that feeling from the last delivery. I was exhausted, but more than that, I was worried. Each sound, each shadow made me jumpier. I tried to distract myself by turning up the radio. I needed the company, even if it was just a talk show host rambling on about the weather. Driving past that house again made my palms sweat. The porch light was back on, flickering like a faulty bulb trying to decide if it wanted to shine or not. I slowed down, my heart racing again. I fought the urge to look away. Why couldn't I just deliver my packages without worrying about creepy houses and absent laughter? I parked in front and took a deep breath, reminding myself this was just a job, nothing more. This time, I felt a bit braver. I approached the door with the package in hand. I could hear the soft tapping again, like someone was drumming their fingers, but not from inside. It sounded almost outside, like it was coming from around the side of the house. I peered over, but the darkness swallowed everything. Shivers crawled up my back, and that laughter echoed again, so close it sent chills through me. It was like the shadows were alive, creeping closer. I had to get the package delivered and leave. I knocked gently, half hoping someone would answer. The laughter stopped, replaced by an unsettling silence. No one came. I looked back toward my car, thinking maybe I should just leave. But before I could turn, I spotted something on the ground. I crouched down, feeling the cold dampness of the grass beneath my fingers. It was a small, old photograph, faded and torn. I moved it closer and gasped. In the picture, a little girl with bright pigtails stood grinning. Behind her was the house. A chill crept through me as I looked closely. It looked just like the one I stood in front of. I flipped it over, and something scratched at the back of my mind as I read the scrawled message. "It'll be fun. Come and play." Suddenly, I heard a creaking sound, like footsteps on wooden floors. My heart stopped. Someone was in the house, but I had just been staring at it. I held my breath and backed away. This couldn't be happening. Just as I turned to run, I felt a cold breeze brush past me. I turned, expecting to see nothing again, but the door was now wide open, inviting and dark. An overwhelming urge pulled me toward it, but fear kept my feet planted. I wanted to leave. I needed to leave. But curiosity mingled with terror. Who was in the house? Why could I still hear that laughter in my head? I hesitated, glancing at the photo one last time, my heart racing. Then everything went dark. When the darkness lifted, I found myself standing inside the house. My heart slammed against my ribs. The air felt heavy and stale, filled with an odd mix of dust and something sweet, almost cloying. The door had closed behind me, the sound echoing through the hallway. I didn't recall stepping inside. Panic surged, the kind that made my palms sweat again. Was I dreaming? I took a slow step forward, willing my feet to move, trying to convince myself this was all just some weird joke. But the laughter, still ringing through my mind, was proof enough that this was no joke. I turned slowly, surveying my surroundings. Dark wooden panels lined the walls, and pictures hung crookedly, their faces obscured by shadows. One portrait caught my eye, a woman with striking features, watching me with knowing eyes. I swallowed hard. She looked eerily familiar, but I couldn't place her. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. Silence answered, but that tapping sound returned, this time louder, more insistent. My heart skipped a beat. It was coming from upstairs. The stairs creaked beneath my feet as I ascended, each step feeling like a bad idea. The second floor didn't help. It only heightened my anxiety. The hallway seemed longer up here, stretching into darkness. I grabbed the rail to steady myself. At the end of the hall, a door stood slightly ajar. Light flickered from within, brushing against the worn carpet. The laughter echoed again, more like a taunt now. I hesitated, then pushed the door open. Inside, I found a small room, cluttered with toys. Old dolls with broken smiles, stuffed animals with matted fur. Everything had a layer of dust. A small table sat in the corner, and atop it lay a tattered teddy bear, its button eyes glinting in the dim light. There was something unsettling about it. I stepped closer, only to feel that strange chill creep over me again. That was when I saw it. A bright red ribbon tied around the bear's neck, just like the one the girl in the photograph wore. "Come and play." The whisper slid through the room like smoke. I stumbled back, the laughter becoming a chorus of giggles, echoing off the walls. I turned to flee when I caught a glimpse of movement, a shadow darting past the open door. My breath hitched. "Who's there?" Nothing but silence. I bolted down the stairs, my instincts screaming at me to run. I reached the front door, yanking it open with all my strength. As I stepped outside, I glanced back one last time. The lights flickered once more, and then I heard it. The soft sound of tapping, followed by that laughter. I had to get out of there. I sprinted to my car and jumped in, slamming the door shut. I fumbled with my keys, hands shaking. But before I could start the engine, a part of me hesitated. The photograph was still on the seat beside me. I picked it up, feeling a chill as I stared at the grinning girl once more. With my heart racing and that laughter still echoing in my mind, I made a decision. I needed answers, no matter what. Then the lights went out, and everything fell silent. I blinked into the darkness, trying to catch my breath. My fingers trembled as I fumbled with the car's interior light, but nothing happened. Panic gripped me, and that echoing laughter still lingered, curling around my thoughts. I felt trapped, like the shadows were closing in, blocking my way to safety. I glanced at the photograph again. The girl's bright smile was unsettling against the backdrop of the darkened car. Who was she? Was she the reason I'd ended up in that house? I forced myself to remember details from the photo. The hair, the dress, that damn red ribbon. Something nagged at the back of my mind. I couldn't just sit here. Whatever that laughter meant, I needed to confront it. I tossed the photograph into the passenger seat and started the engine. The car roared to life, breaking the silence. I backed out of the driveway, a sense of determination flooding my veins. Driving back to the house felt like a bad idea, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was meant to be there. I parked on the street, glancing at my surroundings. The neighborhood felt deserted, the shadows stretching longer than they should. I swallowed the lump in my throat and steeled myself as I stepped out of the car. As I approached the house, my breath caught again. The lights flickered once more, like the house was alive, beckoning me. I could almost hear that laughter rising in the distance. It wrapped around me, making my skin crawl. I hesitated, but pressed on. The front door was still ajar, almost inviting. I stepped in, the air thickening around me. Time seemed suspended, the house holding its breath. The creaks of the floorboards sounded louder this time, echoing my every move and making every instinct in my body scream at me to turn back. I stood in the dark hallway again, adrenaline surging through me. I could explore or run, but I felt an unseen force pulling me toward that upstairs room. I climbed the stairs, my heart racing. The laughter was there, seemingly coming from everywhere. When I reached the second floor, a heavy weight settled on my shoulders. The hallway stretched again, the darkness swallowing its length. The open door beckoned like a moth to a flame. I approached slowly, heart pounding. Then everything went quiet. My breath hitched at the silence, almost deafening in its intensity. I peered into the room. The toys were unchanged, but the teddy bear was gone. My heartbeat quickened. I stepped inside, the floor creaking beneath me. Where had it gone? I scanned the room, frantic and searching. That's when I noticed a flash of red in the corner. A small closet I hadn't seen before. I took a cautious step toward it. The laughter started again, this time under a guise of urgency, pulling me in. I hesitated at the door, wondering what lay beyond. Was I ready for whatever this place held? Trembling, I gripped the handle and pulled it open. The dark of the closet swallowed me, but what I found inside was beyond anything I could have imagined. I stumbled back, breathless. Someone had left a note, and the name scrawled across the paper left me reeling. I wasn't ready for this. It was a name I recognized, but why was it here? That's when I heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind me. I turned slowly, dread pooling in my stomach. The laughter faded, leaving a thick silence that pressed down on me. I strained to hear, but the footsteps were gone. Just like that, I was alone again, or so I thought. I forced myself to focus on the note crumpled in my hand. My heart raced as I recognized the name. Hannah, my childhood friend. But why was her name here, in this dark, forgotten house? I cast a quick glance around the room, the shadows feeling thicker. Something wasn't right. I stepped back into the hallway, trying to calm my nerves. The whispers of the past swirled around me as I recalled the last time I'd seen Hannah. It felt like a lifetime ago. We had lost touch after that summer she moved away. Had something happened to her? Was she involved with this place? The questions flooded in, and I felt the weight of unanswered mysteries pressing down on me. I glanced at the closet. What else might be hidden inside? I hesitated again, biting my lip. The laughter echoed faintly, almost as if coaxing me back. I didn't want to stay, but curiosity gnawed at me. Then, just as I was about to head back, I caught sight of something glittering on the floor. My heart skipped a beat. I bent down and picked up a small, old key. It felt heavy in my palm, cold to the touch. As I stood up, I heard those footsteps again, but this time they were different, closer, more purposeful. I felt a chill run down my spine. They were coming from downstairs. I acted on instinct. I darted down the hallway and back down the stairs, trying to maintain a level head. I peered around each corner, bracing for whatever was lurking in the shadows. The house was still, but my senses were on fire. I reached the bottom and glanced into the living room. Everything was as I had left it, but the air felt charged. Maybe I could slip out unnoticed, but just as I turned to the front door, the lights flickered again. The eerie laughter returned, sharper this time, diving into my thoughts. I fumbled with the doorknob, my fingers slipping. Why couldn't I open it? Just as panic threatened to rear its head, I remembered the key. I pulled it from my pocket and brought it to the lock. I took a shaky breath and turned the key. The door creaked open. Relief washed over me, and I stepped outside into the cool night air. But as I turned to run, I froze. Standing at the edge of the yard, a figure was watching me. I squinted in the darkness, my heart hammering. It was a girl, a silhouette against the moonlight. She wore a familiar red ribbon in her hair. My breath caught in my throat. Who was she? I stood frozen, my thoughts racing. The girl didn't move. She just stared back at me, the moonlight illuminating the outline of her figure. My heart raced again, but not out of fear this time. It was a mix of surprise and confusion. "Hannah?" I whispered, half hoping it was a trick of the light. Her lips curled into a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You found me," she said softly. Her voice was familiar, comforting, but it felt distant, as if she was speaking from behind a thick pane of glass. I took a step closer, instinct pulling me toward her. "I thought I'd lost you," I murmured, the memories of our childhood filling my mind, the laughter we shared, secrets exchanged beneath the stars. But something about this encounter felt wrong. "Hannah, is that really you?" I asked again, searching her face for any sign of the friend I once knew. "What are you doing here?" The smile faded, replaced by a look I couldn't quite read. "You shouldn't have come back," she said, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "This place, it changes people. You need to leave." "Why? What do you mean?" Anxiety twisted in my stomach. I could feel the weight of the house behind me, its dark corners and lingering shadows. I didn't want to believe her, but a part of me felt the truth in her words. "There's something in there with you." Her eyes darted toward the house, and I felt the laughter echoing again, teasing me, taunting me. "It's not safe." I just found a key," I stammered, holding it up like a shield. "And I saw you. I needed to know what happened to you. You need to go. Now." She shook her head, her expression shifting to one of panic. "You don't understand. They will come for you." "Who will come?" My voice trembled. Before she could answer, I heard the footsteps again, this time louder and closer, echoing from the house. The feeling of dread settled over me like a heavy blanket. My instincts told me to run, but I couldn't leave Hannah. "What do you want from me?" I pleaded, desperate for answers. For a moment, she hesitated, her gaze flickering toward the door. "You shouldn't have come back, but now, you're part of it too." Suddenly, a chill swept through the air, and I felt something lurking behind the shadows of the house. I turned quickly to look back at the door, but when I looked back at Hannah, she was gone. Only the swaying grass remained, moving gently in the night breeze. Panic gripped me. I stumbled backwards, glancing around frantically. I wanted to shout for her, but all I could do was stand there. Then, the laughter rose again, louder and more infectious. I turned once more toward the house, dread tightening my chest. Then everything went dark. The porch lights above sputtered out, plunging me into an inky abyss. I felt an intense rush of cold air wash over me, and a sense of foreboding gripped me. Someone was in the house. I blinked in the darkness, my heart racing. My eyes strained to adjust, but there was nothing but shadows. The laughter was silenced now, replaced by an unsettling stillness. I felt the cold seep into my bones. "Hello?" I called, my voice barely above a whisper. No response, just the soft rustle of leaves in the wind. Taking a deep breath, I stepped forward slowly, my footfall muted against the wooden porch. I could see nothing but an outline of the house. It loomed in front of me, dark and foreboding, but I felt I had to know what was inside. I turned the key over in my hand, its cool metal oddly comforting. Hannah had said it wasn't safe. I needed to understand why. Without thinking further, I turned and pushed the door open. It creaked loudly, the sound echoing into the darkness. I stepped inside, the chill wrapping around me like a fog. I fumbled for my phone in my pocket, the screen barely illuminating the small entryway, which was covered in dust and cobwebs. Memories flooded my mind, reminders of game nights and sleepovers. But that was years ago. This place felt different now. As I moved deeper into the house, the air grew stale. The familiar scent of childhood had faded, replaced by something damp and musty. I wanted to turn around and leave, but a part of me pushed forward, curious and scared. I moved through the living room and headed for the main hallway, squinting into the shadows. As I reached the staircase, I heard something. A soft whisper. It was faint, but persistent. "Help. Me." I froze. The whisper sounded familiar. "Hannah?" I called, my voice trembling. I took a slow step up the stairs, pausing at every creak of the old wood beneath my feet. The whisper came again, more insistent this time. "Help me. Please." My heart pounded. I felt a surge of panic mixed with determination. "Where are you?" I shouted, but only silence answered. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I caught movement. I turned, and there it was, a shadow at the end of the hallway. It darted into another room, disappearing like smoke. Fear gripped me again, cold and suffocating. I had to find out what was happening. I took a deep breath and stepped further into the hallway. "If this is a joke, it's not funny," I called, hoping for a response. But there was only that unsettling silence. I approached the room where I had seen the shadow, my pulse racing. Tentatively, I pushed the door open. Inside, clutter covered the floor, and the dim light from my phone barely penetrated the darkness. My heart sank as I realized the room was filled with old, abandoned furniture, all draped in white sheets. That was when I saw it. A figure hunched in the corner, hidden under a sheet. "Who's there?" I managed to ask, but my voice was caught in my throat. The figure shifted, and something fell to the floor with a loud thud. I froze, caught between a desire to escape and an overwhelming need to know what I was looking at. Then the whisper returned, sharper this time. "Get out, before it's too late." In one sudden motion, the figure threw off the sheet. I stumbled back, my breath hitching as I realized who it was. A face I had never thought I would see again. I backed against the doorframe, my heart racing even faster. It couldn't be. The pale face staring back at me was that of my childhood best friend, Sarah. But how? She had disappeared years ago, leaving nothing but questions and grief in her wake. "Sarah," I whispered, half hopeful, half terrified. "Is it really you?" She looked different now. Her eyes were wide and haunted, shadows clinging to her features. "You shouldn't be here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought I was alone. You have to leave." "Why?" I stammered. "What happened to you? Where have you been?" She backed away, shaking her head. "I wish I could tell you, but it's not safe. They're watching," she whispered, glancing over her shoulder towards the dark corners of the room. "Who's watching? Is it the people who took you?" I felt desperation creeping into my voice. In response, she pointed to a corner of the room where shadows seemed to pulse and shift, moving like a live feed of dread. My breath caught in my throat. "Sarah, please," I pleaded, the adrenaline making me lightheaded. "I don't understand. How did you end up here?" "Just go," she hissed, lowering her voice. You can't save me. Before I could respond, a shuffling noise echoed from the hallway. My heart dropped. Someone or something was coming. I glanced at Sarah, whose face had gone pale. Hide, I urged, pushing her toward the old wardrobe at the back of the room. She hesitated, her eyes darting between me and the doorway. Now, I whispered, my urgency deepening. She disappeared inside the wardrobe just as the door creaked open. My breath came in short bursts, and I pressed myself against the wall, desperately trying to swallow the fear swelling inside me. The door swung wide, and a figure stepped inside. The dim light from my phone flickered over them, illuminating the edges of a man, tall, gaunt, wearing a dark coat that swallowed the light. His eyes were sunken, fixated on the room with an unsettling intensity. "Is someone here?" he called, his voice gravelly and chilling. I held my breath, praying he wouldn't hear the pounding of my heart. The man began to search, stepping farther into the room as I fought the urge to bolt. I could see the hints of a sinister smile curling on his lips as he moved nearer to me. Just then, Sarah's whisper echoed in my mind. "Get out, before it's too late." With a sudden burst of courage, I turned and ran for the door, pushing past the startled figure. I barreled down the hallway, my feet pounding against the floorboards. I could hear him shout behind me, the sound of his footsteps gaining. Adrenaline surged as I reached the staircase. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The familiar setting of my childhood home was now a trap. I raced toward the front door, but it wouldn't budge. Panic flooded my system. I twisted the knob, pulling and pushing with all my might. That same whisper flared in my ears, urging me to escape. Then a loud crash echoed from behind me, followed by an eerie silence. I pried the door open just as a cold breeze rushed in. I stumbled outside, gasping for air, the night swallowing me whole. But as I dashed toward the darkness of the yard, I heard Sarah's voice again, this time closer than ever. "You have to help me." Everything within me screamed to run, but I turned back toward the house. What did she mean by help me, and who had come for her? Instinct pulled me in, despite the terror wrapping around my heart. I wasn't done yet. The answers awaited. The night was thick with dread as I stepped back into the house. Moonlight cast long shadows that twisted unnaturally, making every corner seem alive. I could still hear Sarah's desperate plea ringing in my ears. I had to find her, but I wasn't sure if I had the strength. My heart pounded as I crept back inside. The house felt different now, the walls closing in. I scanned the room where I had first seen her. It was empty except for the wardrobe, still slightly ajar. I held my breath, half expecting her to jump out, but the silence was suffocating. "Sarah?" I called softly. No answer. I felt a chill creep down my spine. Something was wrong. Maybe she hadn't wanted to hide after all. I moved slowly toward the wardrobe, curiosity battling with fear. As I peeked inside, nothing but darkness stared back at me. I took a deep breath and leaned in further. Then everything shifted. The wardrobe creaked under my weight, and I stumbled back, catching myself just before I fell. The air felt charged, as if it had thickened. That's when I saw it. A shimmering outline at the back of the wardrobe, pulsating softly like a heartbeat. "What is that?" I murmured, stepping closer. Was this part of whatever she was trying to escape? I reached my hand out, trembling as I touched the shimmering surface. It felt cold, sending a jolt through my arm. Suddenly the atmosphere changed. The shadowy corners of the room deepened, and I heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching again. Panic shot through me. I couldn't get cornered again. I took a step back, but the wardrobe slumped forward, as if pulled by a magnetic force. In that instant, the outline changed. I could make out what looked like doors, smaller, darker, and twisted, almost like a portal. The reality of the situation dawned on me, and I realized this could be the only way to reach Sarah. "Sarah!" I shouted, desperation echoing in my voice. "If you can hear me, I'm coming!" I didn't waste another second. My instincts kicked in. I pushed against the shimmering surface again, and this time I wasn't just touching it. I was pushing through it. The sensation felt like stepping into ice water, shocking and disorienting. Then I found myself on the other side. The world around me morphed. Color seeped back into the environment, and I was thrust into a forest, thick with fog and shadows. I could see outlines of trees, but they twisted in strange ways, almost like they were alive. "Sarah?" My voice broke through the stillness. I felt utterly alone, surrounded by an eerie quiet. My heart raced as I strained to listen. That's when I heard something, a low, growling noise echoing from the depths of the fog. I felt a chill as I turned in the direction of the sound. Then a pair of glowing eyes broke through the mist. The growl became a rumble, reverberating in my chest. The threat was no longer just an echo in the darkness. It had manifested here. I couldn't afford to turn back now. "Sarah, hold on," I called, my voice full of urgency as I took my first steps deeper into the forest. But as I walked, the eyes followed me. The boundaries of my fear began to stretch dangerously thin. I needed to find her before whatever was watching found me. The growl intensified, vibrating through the air. I hurried forward, heart hammering, my mind racing with thoughts of Sarah. Where could she be? My surroundings grew dimmer as the fog thickened, swallowing everything but the glowing eyes. They blinked, almost mockingly, and I realized I had to keep moving. "Sarah," I yelled again, panic creeping into my voice. Silence lingered too long, a stillness that felt heavy. The trees around me loomed like giants, their branches clawing at the air. Then I heard it. A faint, desperate voice, barely perceptible through the fog. "Help me, please!" "Sarah!" I shouted, adrenaline surging. I followed the voice deeper into the mist, calling her name, desperate to reach her. As I continued through the gloomy trees, the ground began to soften beneath my feet, squelching like wet earth. A chill hovered, and with each step, the growling grew closer, almost suffocating. Was it chasing me? I didn't dare look back. "Don't give up!" I yelled into the gray, hoping she was close. "I'm coming!" Suddenly, the fog parted, revealing a clearing. A heavy wooden cabin stood at its center, eerily inviting yet foreboding. Shadows danced on its walls, flickering like flames. I dashed towards it, my instincts screaming that this could be the answer. Maybe this was where the forest hid its secrets. The door creaked open as I approached, a breath of wind urging me forward. I stepped inside, the familiar scent of damp wood filling my nostrils. "Sarah?" I called, desperately scanning the empty space. The cabin was barren, save for an old wooden table at the center, scattered with papers and yellowing photographs. My heart raced as I sifted through them. Images of children, smiling faces, innocence frozen in time. And there she was. A photograph of Sarah laughing with a group of kids, her face beaming with joy. I turned it over, my breath catching in my throat as the ink scrawled across the back. Lost, but not forgotten. "Sarah!" I shouted again, fear and hope intertwining. "Where are you?" Suddenly, the shadows in the corners twisted, growing more animated. The growling returned, louder now, reverberating off the wooden walls. There was no time. I had to find her. I dashed towards a door at the back, the echoes of laughter ringing through my ears. The door creaked open to reveal another hallway, lined with closed doors. I could feel it, the pull of something dark, malevolent. "Sarah, I'm here!" I yelled, lunging toward the nearest door, scrambling to turn the knob. Before I could push it open, the growl morphed into a terrifying roar, shaking the air. I stumbled back, nearly falling, but a voice roared louder than the monster's growl. "Run!" It was Sarah's voice, filled with urgency. Without hesitation, I bolted down the hall, ignoring the clamor of secrets hidden behind each door. Something was demanding my attention, pulling me toward the end of the corridor, deeper into the chaos. I reached a door covered in vines, a greenish glow pulsing behind it. The growls were now a cacophony, I threw it open, plunging into the light. Suddenly, I was back in the house, standing in the familiar living room, the echoes gone, replaced by sheer silence. Everything felt different, lighter, yet unsettling. Fear was still woven into me, but now the shadows seemed less threatening. I scanned the room, expecting the figure of the man to come rushing at me. Instead, the space was empty and quiet, almost tranquil. I grasped at the memory of Sarah, a thread desperately tying us together. I had to find her, had to know what had happened. I staggered to the front door and flung it open, only to be met with nothing but darkness. The house loomed behind me, unyielding and dark, yet strangely still. Out on the street, I took a breath, willing the chill away. That hum of laughter had faded, but doubt still loomed heavy over me. I couldn't shake the feeling that the forest, the cabin, was still behind everything I experienced. What had happened to Sarah? What kind of darkness laid hidden within that house? As I walked away, I felt a tension in the air, a sense of waiting. I knew I wasn't finished yet, that somewhere amid those shadows lay the truth, waiting to be uncovered. I didn't dare look back as I departed, but the unease settled deep within my bones. Whatever lingered in that house, whatever happened there, the story wasn't over. And somewhere, unanswered questions echoed in the night.